Hi everyone, I'm Petra. I'm a life coach and advocate for survivors of narcissistic and emotional abuse. So I placed a short video on Instagram about 2 weeks ago asking for new topics for the channel, and very many of you responded, so thank you for that. And I have a whole list to work through, so that's great. That gives me enough work for the coming months. But the one topic that kept on coming up was how do I co-parent with a narcissist? Well, I think the place to start is to get very clear that there is no co-parenting with a narcissist. If anything, I know that there are a lot of terms out there saying other people have called it parallel parenting. This is just my view, and that is that you are single parenting. You know, if anything, even in the relationship with the narcissist, in marriage with the narcissist, you were the one who was doing the parenting. So the healthy parent is doing the parenting. And I think this is something that you maintain even after the divorce. So there is, of course you have, there is 50-50 input whenever the children are spending time with you in your home. That is, you can give them the full 100. But on the other hand, there is also the percentage of what they are getting from the toxic parent when they are visiting with the other parent and what they're getting from you. So in that sense, there is a 50-50 going on here. And don't forget that you are the one who has complete control. When the children are in your home, you have your own values, your own conditions, your own rules, if you will, in your home. And those are the only things that you can maintain within your territory, so within your own home. There is no way you can control the situation when the parents are when the children, when the children are visiting with the other parent or spending weekends with them or spending vacations with them. You have no control of those situations. And I think it's very important to accept that fact that you cannot be watching them 24/7. Now, I do understand that when we are speaking of very young children, say children under the age of 10, that, children are little people who are tremendously influenced by what goes on in both homes. And they do not have the emotional capacity yet to be able to differentiate between the two, to see what it is, in fact, that the toxic parent is doing. Most times it's manipulation, of course. They do not have this insight. But on the other hand of that, this is a great gift that all children have, is that they just follow their intuition and they speak the truth. If there is something that has occurred or has been said or has happened at the home of the toxic parent, they will just speak that truth. And the mistake that we make as parents, I'm including myself here because I have been divorced before, and I will speak for myself as well, is that we have the tendency, we feel the urge to talk bad about the other parent, to say certain things to the children involved about the other parent. And this is our hurt and our anger and our sadness that we are projecting onto the children. I have made this mistake before. Please don't do that. Do not talk bad about the other parent in front of the child, especially younger children. When we're speaking of adolescents or teenagers, then they are capable of forming their own conclusions, their own ideas about the dynamics of a family situation. So then you're dealing with a different mentality at that state, in that situation. So also don't forget that you are dealing with high conflict people. The narcissist, the toxic person, is all about high conflict. And, they thrive on engaging in mental and spiritual warfare. So when you realize this is when you can then put emotional intelligence into the mix. You have to be the more emotionally intelligent person and not defend yourself when your children come home from visiting your ex-spouse and tell you certain things that have been said about you, about the situation, which 9 times out of 10 are a crock of lies. The first thing we do is to react by defending ourselves, by trying to smooth over the situation, by trying to tell the truth of the situation. This is really, this has no effect. This has no effect, because what you're in fact doing is also confusing the children who's telling the truth, when really all you can say is just, or all you can do is just take that information that has been relayed to you and respond. Don't react. Respond to what is being said to you in a very non-emotional way. You know, so if I think a great example, and that I will use, I will not mention names, but just recently a client sent me a video shot of her boys relaying stuff to her that the ex-husband, spouse, had said to the boys about their mother. And this was very painful to watch, because the kids were telling the truth. The ex-spouse said some very mean things about their mother, and this hurt the kids, and this is what they were relaying to their mother. And I thought she had a great way of responding. All she said is, "That wasn't very nice, and I'm sorry your daddy feels that way, and I'm sorry he said that. That wasn't a very nice thing for him to say." So instead of getting all emotional and defending herself, she kept it non-emotional and backed up the fact that it was not a very nice thing to say. And so you know who you are. I commend you for responding in that way. Another great thing, you know, or just to come back to the high conflict, you are always going to get this from your ex-spouse, is that they are always looking for conflict. So the best way to go about it is to minimize the contact. You know, when you are speaking to each other as parents, keep the information low key, keep it just about the children, keep it about facts. Don't relay stuff to them about your private life. Don't get into depth about what went wrong in the relationship. Don't defend yourself. Don't do any of that. Just keep things to a bare minimum. So very minimum minimize your contact with them. And just keep things matter of fact and on the surface. Do not go into depth. Another great thing is establishing firm boundaries. You need to have firm boundaries. If the time is 7 and the ex-spouse shows up 2 hours later, there have to be consequences for that. You know, you could say, look, we have this timeline that we have discussed and that we have agreed on, is that you pick up the kids at 7. If you come at 9 o'clock, that's just a deal breaker. You know, we have to stick to certain times. And you need to know what that deal breaker is. There has to be consequences involved. And you need to make this clear, even if you have to have it put into the contract when you're going through the court system. Make that very clear, that there are certain boundaries that they have to stick to. Now, I know how challenging that is, because again, being high conflict people, narcissists do not like being told what to do. They do not like sticking to times. They want to override all of the boundaries that you have. But again, this is for you. You need to establish those boundaries, because if you do not, they will just take you for a ride and always cross those boundaries. So you need to have that and also have the consequences involved. Providing structure for your children is also very important. Now, there may not be structure at the ex-spouse's home, but you can provide that structure in your own home. There is a certain bedtime, there's a certain time for having meals together, there's a certain time for discussing certain topics. Have that structure, because children need structure. And this is something that kids always complain about. They don't like the structure, they don't like the rules, but later on in life they will be grateful to you for those rules and for that structure. So always have structure in your own home. This is a safe place where kids need to be able to return to when they have spent time with their father or their mother, is that they need to come back into a structured environment. Remain calm. I'm just looking down at my notes, so I'd forgotten where I was. But the important thing is to remain calm within the crazy. The narcissist is going to do everything in their power to rock your world. I've said this again so many times. You need to remain calm in all of that crazy, because you cannot have two high conflict parents. You cannot have one parent who is crazy and the other parent who is then drawn into that craziness, and then you have this whole ball of crazy going on and the kids are affected by it. So you, as the healthy parent, need to remain calm within the crazy. And I realize that is a huge challenge. It has been for me too. But this is something that you have to do in order to maintain stability for the children. Family court systems cannot comprehend that a toxic parent can be so manipulative and treacherous at the expense of the children. And I get that. I mean, if, you know, whoever has never experienced toxic situations and relationships, someone who has never experienced narcissistic and emotional abuse will just not get that dynamic. So this is where it becomes very challenging for you as the healthy parent to convey to the court system exactly what is going on, all the manipulation, the intimidation, the anger, all of that comes into these very sad situations. And if anything, this can be a very lonely experience, because you will not feel that you can turn to anyone. You feel that everyone is against you, because they do not comprehend what is really going on. So if you do not have those family and friends to turn to in this very challenging time, then the best thing to do is get yourself into a support group. I have a support group on Facebook if you'd like to join, to share your story and to just get feedback from all the other survivors. Then please feel free to join. I'll put the link beneath the video. But this is a very lonely time, and you do not need to be lonely. Even if it is online, even if it is a digital support group, you can get that extra support that you need when you cannot get it directly from family or friends who may be used as flying monkeys, or who would just not understand the dynamics of what you've been through. So being the single parent, being the healthy parent, you need to lead by example. You need to do that. So, excuse me, if anything, I apologize. If anything, you need to start practicing self-care, because if you do not practice self-care, there is no way that you can give that to your children. You can tell your children what to do, but children need to be led by example. If you are taking care of yourself, taking care of your emotional needs, getting enough sleep, eating the right foods, getting enough exercise, going through this process of grief and of the completion of a relationship, this is what you are showing your children, and they will take on that example. That is really all you can do, but you need to be the rock in this whole situation. Even though you feel like falling apart, it's okay to do that. When you're on your own, when you're with people that you trust, you may fall apart. But you also need to be that rock and that leader for your children, especially when we're talking about very young children in these sad situations. Also, I think I just mentioned this is to give up the urge to control the situation. You know, if anything, this is also what happens when you are in relationship with a narcissist, is that there are two controlling factors here. The narcissist wants to control you, to destroy you, and you are looking to control the narcissist by trying to make them see your perspective. So there's always control going on. So when you're in the situation of completing the relationship with the narcissist, you need to give up that control. You can never control someone else. You cannot control what they do. You cannot control their thoughts. The only thing and the only person you can control is yourself and your own emotions. And this takes a lot of practice and a lot of effort on your part, but it is doable. Just know that you have no control of any other situation except for your own situation in your own home with the children when they are with you. You know, another important thing that I've heard so often also when speaking to clients is that when the children return from a weekend or a holiday with the ex-spouse, is that there is a lot of anger that comes out. So the children act out. Please, parents, do not take this personally. It is not a personal attack on you as the healthy parent. This is that the children feel safe enough to express their anger and express their grief when they are with you. When they are with the ex-spouse, they do not feel safe enough to express themselves. So whatever they have been bottling up and suppressing when they have been with the ex-spouse or with their parent is what is going to be let out when they are back in a structured and safe environment with you. So don't take this personally. It isn't personal. You need to allow the children to have that space to vent, to talk about their feelings, and please validate those feelings. I'm not talking about defending yourself. There we go again. Do not defend yourself, but validate the feelings of the children. This is very important. And if anything, you know, for those of you who have been raised in dysfunction, who have come from toxic homes, you know what it feels like to not have your feelings and emotions validated by your toxic parent. So this is where you get to break that cycle, break that pattern, and you get to validate your children's feelings. So this is very important. Hold space for the children. And in doing that, you are also holding space for yourself. You know, you can talk about certain things that went on in the family dynamic. This is often what children just bring up. They want to talk through things. And you can talk about it very objectively. Tell your experience in this situation. You don't need to go into details. It has to be age appropriate, of course. But this is the way that you get to validate each other's experiences when discussing certain things that went on in the home. So I hope that sheds some light on parenting with a toxic spouse, or really when you are the single parent. That is what it boils down to. You are the single healthy parent here. And what one of the, I think it's a gentleman who wrote me on Instagram, is that he said that the children are being used as pawns, and they are being used as flying monkeys as well. And this very often happens. If anything, if you can, you know, just accept the fact that flying monkeys are also under the influence of toxicity. So they are in that illusion, the same illusion that you were in. Your children are being pulled or have been pulled into that illusion, and they are being used as these flying monkeys. But just again, stick to the facts. If your children come home and tell you certain things that your ex-spouse has said about you, just, you know, you could even say, are those your thoughts, or did someone tell you those thoughts? Are they someone else's thoughts? You know, just simple questions like that without defending yourself can get the other person, the flying monkey, the children in this case, to sort of use their own thinking to assess a situation. But don't forget that they themselves are also being manipulated. So it's very difficult, again, to control the situation. All you can do is, it's a huge task, but accept the fact that this is what happens. And if anything, when the narcissist realizes, your ex-spouse realizes that they have lost control over you, this is when they will put in, you know, or recruit the flying monkeys, because they realize that they're losing the control over you. So they will go about it in a very devious way and get third parties in to attack you. Again, remain emotionally intelligent in these situations. The more you try and set things straight, the more you try and tell your version of the facts, the more complex it's going to get, and the more lies that are going to be spread. So I realize again that it is a challenge, but this is what you need to do in order to go through this process, in order to navigate. So I hope that has shed some light on being a single parent after a relationship with a narcissist has been completed. If you have any queries, just jot them down below the video, and please always feel free to email me. Please follow me on Instagram. You can find me under Petra Vandale. And if you'd like to join the support group, I will put the link down below. And if you found this video to be helpful at all, please share it. Thank you again for watching. I wish you all a blessed weekend and speak to you all very soon. Love to you. Bye now.